government is able to absorb the cost of land and cost of infrastructure, meaning roads and utilities, we will have contributed to absorbing 50% of cost of construction of house. And that would mean that the house per unit, cost per unit, will have been reduced by 50%. So if on the average, a house is costing 300,000, and government absorbing these facilities, land and utilities and roads, the price per unit will be 150,000, and it will be affordable. With a very credible mortgage scheme to support it, this will be very affordable to many Ghanaians. And that is the strategy I'm proposing for the reduction of the huge housing deficit.
Nominee, 150,000 Ghana cedis will be affordable to many Ghanaians, but it will also be outside the reach of many Ghanaians. Do you have any plans to invest in rental units, particularly for young upstarts, young people who have started work, young people who have just gotten employment, transferred out of home for the first time, required to pay 2 years, 3 years in advance? Do you have any plans to construct rental units which such young people can take advantage of?
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, you are right. Rental units provision is a key part of our strategy. And when we say affordable housing, we are talking about people who want to own homes. And the rental units are also captured in also another side where students who have just finished school or young people who have just started working can have a place to live and stay, decent accommodation, while they prepare to own homes in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to ask the nominee what he will do to bring down the cost of housing, but he tried to answer it together with the first question that I asked. What I want to find out is the cost of building materials. Cost of building materials. In December, if you take iron rods, for instance, 16 millimeters cost 3,800. At the moment, it is 5,200 Ghana cedis. 12 mm, also 5,200. If you take cement, in December, it was 40 Ghana cedis. Today, it's around 45, 46 Ghana cedis. What do you think we should do as a country to reduce the cost of building materials?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, the recent hike in the cost of building material has been attributed to huge international shipment costs in recent times. This was attributed to the COVID pandemic. But when it comes to building material, what we have to do as a country is to go into the production of local building material. For me, that is the long-term agenda of the ministry when I get the nod. Because the local building materials, if you're able to produce in large quantities, will be much cheaper. But the real challenge is how our local folks will accept our local building materials, like bent, based, and all that. So it is important that we work with stakeholder institutions, for example, BARI, that has done a lot of research into local building materials, and Department of Rural Housing, that has the mandate to build capacity of people to use local material for local housing. So that's it's highly on my agenda, and I will work hard to promote that.
Mr. Chairman, perennial flooding in Accra and Tema in some parts of the country. I see this as a lack of political will on the part of the successive governments. Your predecessor, Honorable Atachia, when he assumed office, he stated that to address the perennial program, flooding program in Accra and Tema will require about $700 million to be able to holistically address the flooding problem in Accra and Tema. So now we are in January, February. Everybody has gone to sleep. February, March, April, May, when the rain sets in, all of us will be struggling with the flood in Accra and Tema. What are you going to do to ensure that government raise the necessary funding to tackle this problem in Accra and some part of the country?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, what my predecessor said about the need for adequate funding is right, in the sense that our drainage system, as we have now, were built many years ago, and most of them have outlived its usefulness because of population increase, urbanization, and what have you. But in the absence of funds to tackle these structural measures, re-engineering of our drainage system, there are certain short to medium-term measures that we can also take. For instance, we have to embark upon the annual program of desilting, excavation, and dredging of the major channels that lead to Odo and Kole Lagoon and those places that are the flood-prone areas. In June 2015, for instance, Ashaiman District Assembly had taken it upon themselves to do dredging ahead of the rains. So when we were hit by the rains on June 10th, Ashaiman didn't experience flooding. This tells you the importance of the dredging exercise that we do every year. So we have to continue, and it has to be timeless. It has to start before the rain begins. And when I get a nod, I'm going to make sure that we start the early dredging. Secondly, we have to ensure stringent implementation of our waste collection system. I will collaborate with the Ministry of Water and Sanitation to ensure that, because that is one of the primary reasons that causes flooding in Accra. People indiscriminately throw solid waste into drainage channels that prevent free flow of water. These two immediate measures are very important to prevent flooding here in Accra. And as part of the National Control Program, in the last 4 years, a lot has been done in terms of desilting, concrete lining, and excavation works. In fact, in 2018, 205 million Ghana cedis was spent on the National Control Program. And in 2020, 250 million Ghana cedis has also been spent, and contracts have been awarded for people to start work. So all these measures all go into the prevention of flood, and that is why in the last 4 years, we haven't seen major flooding here in Accra.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman. Oh. Mr. Chairman, the previous NDC government started a housing project at Sagremi. The first phase of the project, 2005, started and got to a point when he left office. At some point, the project came to a halt, and just want to find out from you what you will do to resuscitate the project, to complete it, so that Ghanaians can benefit from that project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Saglimi project is a very important project. It was meant to decongest the city of Accra. And I want to take this opportunity to commend the initiator. It was a very good project. I've received a briefing full briefing of the matter, and my major preoccupation is simple, is to see to the early completion of the project. We cannot allow the taxpayers' money to go to waste. And that is my major preoccupation. When I get the nod, I'll put a team together to advise me on the various financing options that will be needed to get the project going. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, my last question. My last question, Mr. Chairman. As a result of erosion, we are losing a lot of communities along the coastal lines. What will you do to ensure that those communities that we have lost, we will reclaim them, and lands that have been lost as a result of erosion by the sea, we can also reclaim them? What specifically will you do? As leader said, it's very, very capital intensive. What effort will you put in to ensure that communities that are being lost as a result of tidal waves are put to a stop?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I've already indicated that even though it's capital intensive, the President, Nana akufo-addo's administration, has made it possible that resources are available for this project. And for the last 4 years, over 1.1 billion cedis have been invested in the provision of sea defense for the protection of our coastal enclave. As Minister, God willing, when I get the Lord, I will continue the program and make sure that we protect our coastal communities. The coastal stretch is 550 kilometers. And out of that, the experts say that 2/3 of them need some sort of protection. And if you do not do anything about it, it has dire consequences for our country. So we have to find the money and continue with what we have been doing.
Thank you, Honorable Ahi. Yes, we also haven't asked the questions today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Francis Asenso-Boachi, congratulations. I make reference to page 87 of the NPP manifesto for the 2020 elections. And says that one of the promises that was made in 2016 was to facilitate the construction of low and mid-income housing over the short, medium, and long term. Now, following that, over 5,770 acres was acquired as at 2018 at Sege and Ojubi. Additional 1,313 acres acquired around Fiankonya and Kwema. Now, the best part of this one for me is the fact that government had established a national housing and mortgage finance scheme to address both the housing supply and demand side financing challenges, and Mr. Chairman made allusion to that. Now, I believe that a very solid foundation has been laid for a smooth takeoff. Now, can you guarantee to this committee that within the next 4 years, if you happen to be the minister during that period, you'll be able to accomplish this housing scheme? Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, the Honorable MP is right. The acquisition of these land banks is to serve as the basis to roll out these affordable programs. And the plan is to service these service these land banks, provide on-site infrastructure, including roads and utilities, so that we can work with public developers like State Housing and private developers like Grader to provide these affordable housing homes for our people. So you are right. That's exactly what we are going to do, Honorable Member. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Zvera, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Honorable Nominee. Honorable Nominee, I want to find out from you, does your government have any intention of leveraging the pension fund for housing development? And if so, why?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, it is a manifesto pledge of the MPP that you are going to leverage the housing fund for housing development. As we speak, the pension fund law allows just 5% of the pension fund portfolio to be able to spend on housing development. It's also a manifesto pledge that we want to increase that 5% so that we can have more space to leverage for housing development. There's a very good reason why you want to leverage the pension fund, because it is a long-term investment, and you need long-term investment for construction finance and a credible mortgage regime. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you. My next question is on Public Works Department, commonly called PWD. There's this general perception out there that it's being underutilized. Others think it's outlived its usefulness and it's overstaffed, and government is spending money on an entity that is viewed as not contributing anything to the economy. What will be your approach to dealing with the issue of PWD to make it more friendly and more effective in the eyes of Ghanaians as we used to know them to be when we were growing up? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, the Public Works Department is a very old institution. In fact, it was established in 1850. And their mandate is to supervise the construction and maintenance of government bungalows and offices. Over the years, their scope of work has reduced considerably, and they still depend on government subventions. So the staff have relaxed a little bit, even though they have very qualified engineers and surveyors and architects. What I think it should be done is for Public Works Department to be run like a business, so that they can leverage on their expertise and seek private sector work as well. I think they have to adopt private sector management techniques so that they can be competitive. So when, God willing, I get a nod, I will encourage them to adopt good marketing strategies. They have to have a business unit where they can seek jobs. They have to have a marketing department where they can market their product. All these have to be done to make them vibrant in the new world. And as minister, I'm going to champion that. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My last question has to do with affordable housing. And as you would, I think everybody here will agree that it's been the most topical part of your vetting this evening. But there's been a phenomenon that governments come in, start affordable housing projects, and then if elections don't go well, and those governments exit, the incoming government abandons the projects. Why does that happen? What can we do? What will you do if you get the nod to make sure that it's incumbent on any incoming government, because government is a continuum. It has to continue projects that especially come directly to the so-called vulnerable. So if we are doing affordable housing projects, and because a government exited, another government comes and then abandons the project and goes to start a new one. And if that government is not lucky and in 4 years they are out, the next coming government abandons it, and then we have all these projects scattered around the country and people don't have housing. Will you be able and willing to move or support legislation to compel incoming governments to complete these projects. Otherwise, they will be charged for causing financial loss to the state because the monies involved is the taxes of the people. What are your thoughts about this phenomenon? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, the Honorable Member is right, and I believe that she's hit the nail right on the head. The problem is that over the years, we don't have a well-defined institutional framework to guide our housing development, and affordable housing is one of them. And that is why earlier on, I proposed the establishment of a national housing authority, whose duty will be to plan and manage all housing development, including affordable housing. So all these affordable housing programs will be managed by the housing authority, and it will not be like the project is a political project. It will be part of an institution, so that whichever government is in place, the National Housing Authority will take charge of the project and implement it to the letter. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Honorable Nominee, are you aware of Article 35(7) of the Constitution? Let me read it so to strengthen your argument. As far as practicable, a government shall continue and execute projects and programs commenced by the previous government. So it's actually a constitutional mandate. It's in the law already, but we should ensure that they are enforced. So take note. If you don't continue any projects, we'll bring you here to come and answer questions on that.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Honorable Chairman. Honorable Nominee, quite an impressive CV from humble beginnings in North Central to Michigan State University. Quite an achievement. But going through your CV, I realized you spent close to about 12 years with the current president, and as a personal assistant, and then a political assistant to a chief of staff, deputy chief of staff, and political assistant to the president. You've been quite close to the president for 12 years. For those of us who've not had that benefit, what is in that man? And what are the takeaways as you leave the Flagstaff House to the ministry?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, the Honorable Member for Abetifi is right. I've had opportunity to work with the President for a very long time, especially his days as the opposition leader of Ghana. And I think there are 2 or 3 things that I believe I can say about him that I pray to God that I'll be able to do same in my public office. First of all, the president is a very honest man. Whatever he tells you is exactly what he does. Honesty is his best policy. Secondly, the president is a fair person. He doesn't discriminate. He treats people equally, regardless of your gender, your ethnic background, or religious affiliation. And thirdly, anybody who has come close to the president will agree with me that he's a man of compassion. He's a very compassionate man, to the extent that if even, like we say in our local parlance, that that's the kind of person he is.
So wait.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
We want the English translation of what you said in Twi. Well, let me help you.
If he's eating and he sees another person hungry, he will take out his food and give it to the person. That's the literal translation of the.
Mr. Nominee, clearly we may not be able to establish any negative causality against you. And I just, working with you in the last 10 years from the party office, I know that you will deliver if given the nod as a minister. I pray for you. Good luck.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I think the words from the Honorable Member for Betifi are very kind words, and I want to express my appreciation for that. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Yes, Honorable Agyapong.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Honorable Nominee, as a former Minister for Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, I know what countries are doing with planning, and I have Marrakesh, Morocco in mind. The city is well planned and it serves as a tourist attraction. What policy measures do you have to stop this haphazard development that we have in Ghana? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, I'm a trained development planner, and I have a fair appreciation of what a controlled development can do for the country. Unfortunately, the duty of making sure that our city is well planned is in the hands of the district assemblies. And you need effective collaboration with the district assemblies to ensure that permits are issued to places where it will not create problem. The proposal I made earlier that the National Housing Authority will provide land banks and service the land banks. When I say service, I mean providing infrastructure to the land banks and giving these service plots to developers to build is one surest way of ensuring controlled development. And I can assure you that if you come to this house and we pass this law for the establishment of the Ghana Housing Authority, it will go a long way in avoiding situations of haphazard development. Thank you.
Very well. Yes, Giselle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Nominee, would you support, you're advocating for the National Housing Authority. You're advocating for the National Housing Authority, but would you support a paradigm shift whereby if about 90% of the housing stock is being developed by private individuals, some assistance will be given to these private individuals instead of public housing, stocks of public housing in that manner? Would you consider such a combination under the National Housing Authority that you are proposing?
I'm sorry, can you clarify what do you mean by support to private individuals? What kind of support? If you can clarify so that I can proceed.
Financial support for people to put up their houses. If you look in, you said you're a development planner. Say you are entering into Kumasi from the air. As you are descending, you see a lot of buildings uncompleted with no roofs. Somebody started it and got stuck at a point. Would you consider a system under the National Housing Authority that you are proposing, so that there will be either some facilities to help them to complete, or other than just mainstream public housing with land banks and so on and so forth? will you consider a combination of that?
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. Honorable Member, I find your question interesting, and God willing, when I get the nod, I will take a closer look at it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. My second question. My second question. The Ministry of Works and Housing undertakes the classification of contractors, am I right? And issues them with certificates.
Yes, you are right.
All right. You also appreciate that construction is on every institution's budget, even a household. The construction or the house is the biggest capex item. Would you advocate for regulation of the construction industry in any way, such that, for example, there are different tiers of contractors, not just on paper only, but actually in practice? Because people have these as their businesses, they invest into equipment, and surely they would want to see some sustainability along the way. Would you consider regulating the construction industry? And how would you go about it?
Thank you very much. I will support such a move.